Hi Stampers! Welcome to my craft room. This week we're venturing into the serene beauty of a brand new stamp set called Unbounded Beauty Suite. So it's actually 2 stamp sets and 2 die sets and a bunch of other goodies like pretty paper and embellishments and stuff like that. It's really fun. And I have 4 cards to share with you this week. And yes, you heard me right, 4 cards. I'm doing an extra video on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this special is because we're doing a collaborative YouTube celebration. Make sure you come back for that because there's going to be 8 other stampers with 8 other card ideas or projects. I'm not sure what they're going to be, but I'm sure they're going to be inspiring. But today's card is focusing on creating a heartfelt and meaningful card. We're going to create a really pretty sympathy card. So follow along, and I'm going to show you a masking technique to create a really pretty background. And then we're going to stamp with one of the delicate stamps in the Floral Images stamp set. Actually, it's called Flowers of Beauty stamp set. So I'm really excited to share this with you. The masking technique is fun and it's easy, and you can use it on a lot of different cards. So let's get to it.
So here's today's card, and here is the area where we're going to do that masking technique. And then here's one of the images from the Flowers of Beauty stamp set. And then we're going to use the With Sympathy sentiment. So these are the stamp sets that I'm talking about. These are in the Unbounded Beauty Suite, which means it's a bunch of supplies that you can get all in one big suite. Of course, you can pick and choose and get whatever you like, but the suite does include the Flowers of Beauty stamp set, and it has coordinating dies. And then you have a sentiment set with wonderful sentiments and font, beautiful font. Some sentiments are for the front of the card and some for the inside of the card. So that's always nice to have both sentiments right in one stamp set. And then it also comes with these fun dies. And these dies, of course, can be used with any of your stamp sets. So we're going to touch base on a lot of these things this week. Like I said, I'm going to have 4 videos this week to give you some ideas what you can do with these stamp sets and the dies and the pretty paper too that comes in this set. So let's talk about today's card and the supplies that you need. So I have a card base of black, and it's 8.5 by 5.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4. And for the inside and the front, I have 2 white pieces that are 5 by 3 3/4. And then I have just a piece of paper. You could use cardstock, but I have just a piece of paper. And this is what we're going to use to do our masking technique. So I'm bringing in a circle die. This is the deckled circle die. You could use any circle die that you have. This is about 3 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and cut that out, and I will be right back. Remember, I fast forward. I'll be back in a jiffy. Okay, so I cut a circle right out of that piece of paper. I like using just regular paper because it's thinner, so when you're doing the masking technique, there's no bumps or ridges. You could use cardstock also, but like I said, you might as well just use a piece of paper so you don't waste your cardstock. So we're not going to do anything with this circle. So I'm going to bring in my piercing mat and another scrap sheet, and then I'm going to take our 2 pieces, our cardstock and our little piece of paper that we cut the circle out of. I'm going to line them up. They're both the same size, 5 by 3 3/4. And I'm going to take a piece of that Post-it tape and tape down the 2 pieces together so they don't move. I'm using this piercing mat because we're using polymer stamps, and sometimes it's nice to have that extra cushion. I don't always use it, but I wanted to make sure that to let you know that if you ever have trouble stamping some of your images, that little piercing mat really adds is a nice cushion and helps you get a better image when you do stamp. We don't necessarily need it for our masking technique, but I thought I'd bring that in now because we're going to use it when we stamp our floral image. So I'm going to use my stamping blends. You could use sponge daubers or a piece of sponge, whatever you like to use. And I'm going to use Boho Blue ink and the new Shy Shamrock ink. This is one of the new in colors. I'm going to bring in another. This is just a scrap piece of paper that I have, and I am just going to tear it willy-nilly. Didn't even worry about how it turned out, right? Just tore that piece of paper, and I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to start with the Shy Shamrock ink. And I'm just going to take this piece that I ripped, which has a nice little fun ruffled edge, and I'm going to lay it down here at the bottom. There's my circle. So I have a little bit of the circle showing. I'm going to ink up my stamping blend, and I'm just going to color this in. Just like that. Now I'm going to take my little scrap sheet here, and I'm just going to move it so it's not in the same position. So I'm going to move it over a little bit, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. And when you're tearing a piece of paper or you're using this scrap, you definitely want to use paper or a Post-it note, something very thin. You don't want to use cardstock. It's just a little bit too thick. So far that's what we have. And you can even flip this over and do the other side. And you can go over what you've already inked up. It doesn't matter. Just like that. So now I think that's enough with the pretty shy shamrock color. And we're going to start coloring in the top with the boho blue. So we'll bring in a blue stamping blend. So I'm just going to lay my scrap down, and I'm going to have a little bit of the circle exposed, and I'm going to ink up my blend, and I'm going to color in the top. And don't peek and don't worry about it till you're all done, because it's going to turn out really gorgeous when you are done. So again, I moved the piece of paper so the line images aren't the same. We don't want the lines to be the exact same. You can angle it, you can flip it over, you can do whatever you like, just as long as they're not the exact same. And another little tip is, when you first start, instead of putting it right on your circle, you may want to start off to the side to get a little bit of ink off so it's not too harsh when you first start. And then you can go ahead and color in that empty space. Okay, I got a little bit left there, so I'm going to go ahead and do it one more time. And now see, I have a little bit of white left. I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit more color without using the scrap piece, and fill that little white area in. And you can go over the green, it's not going to matter. It's going to look really pretty when we take off this masking circle. Just like that, okay? So before you take off your masking circle, you want to stamp your flower image. So let me show you which stamp I'm going to use. I'm going to use this one right here, and I'm going to stamp that in Memento black ink. Now this image is way too big to fit in that circle, so I'm going to ink it up and just put the top part of it in that circle, and you'll see how pretty it looks. Okay, now we can remove our mask. See, I had the extra stamp down here on that mask image. It's not going to show up on our card, and we don't want it to. We just want that main area in the circle. So when I take this off, that's what it looks like. Isn't that pretty? Just love the way that turned out. Okay, but we're not done. We have to do a little more stamping. So I'm going to bring back in the Memento black ink, and on the front I'm going to use the stamp from the Unbounded Love set that says With Sympathy. I'm going to stamp that down here in the bottom right corner area. Just like that. Now, a little tip is, if you would like to, what you could do is, before you do any of that masking and you just have your piece of cardstock like this, you could go ahead and stamp in the bottom right hand corner. That way, if you make a mistake, you can flip it over, because if you have all of this done and then you stamp it and you make a mistake, then you got to do this over again. So again, if you want, you can stamp your sentiment first and then go ahead and turn it after you stamp. And then after you stamp, then you can go ahead and lay your masking piece down and tape it and do your coloring in the circle. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of texture to this with the exposed brick embossing folder. This is a great folder for background texture. So let me run that through the machine and I'll be right back. Okay, so that's what it looks like with the added texture. It's really pretty. I love the way that turned out. So now we're going to bring our card base in, and instead of putting it right in the center, we're going to move it all the way over to the right edge and center it top to bottom, and I'm going to glue it right there. Okay, so that leaves us a little bit wider of a border right here. And I went ahead and I cut out these pretty little white flowers, and let me show you the die that I used. I was able to cut them out all at once with the Flowers of Beauty dies, and I used this one right here. There's two strips. One's a larger flower and one's a smaller flower. So I used this one and I cut out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 flowers at one time. We're not going to use all 8, but watch how pretty this looks. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to the back of these flowers, and I'm going to go ahead and position them right there on the side of our card. So what I'm doing, every time I glue that little tiny piece, there's always extra glue on something when you're doing something so tiny. I like to blob off the extra glue on my silicone mat, and that leaves just enough glue to stick to your card base, and it doesn't squish out. Okay, so that's the front of our card. Now let's do the inside. So like I said, this stamp set comes with sentiments that are perfect for the inside of your card. So on the inside, we're going to stamp "My heart goes out to you." I'll stamp that in Memento black ink. And see, by using this piercing mat underneath, it really helps with that cushion. I like that. So now I'm going to bring back in the Shy Shamrock. And I'm going to bring back in the stamp pad that we used previously on the front of the card. I'm just going to clean this off with my little chamois. Get rid of that black ink because we're going to ink it up in the Shy Shamrock. So it's a nice big stamp, so I'm going to ink it up this way. And the important thing is you want to make sure you stamp off. Get that extra ink off. And now I'm going to stamp right down the middle of our card. And it's got a very, very faint image, and it really looks pretty. Okay, now I'm going to glue this to the inside of our card, and we'll take a peek. Isn't that masking technique perfect for this card? We made a serene sympathy card to offer comfort and support during tough times. And it just turned out beautiful. I love it. And this looks really pretty in person, and hopefully you can see the subtle flower in the background. So leave me some comments and some love, and I'll see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. for a special collaborative YouTube special with myself and 8 other stampers. So that's tomorrow at 2 p.m. right here. See you then. Don't be shy. Stamp and shout.